So before I started working with Joe, what was the main problem? I mean, there's an array of them, right? So walking was difficult for me. Basically standing, and if anybody kind of like put any pressure on me, I would fall, so I didn't have any center of gravity. I also had difficulty reading, so that was something that me and Joe kind of worked on right away. And you're probably like, well, reading, that's kind of weird. So I had a lot of trauma to my left eye, and so like reading and just like seeing words on a paper was very difficult for me. So we did, Joe worked on that, and how he did it is, I mean, he just does a lot of magic. What else did we work on? I had a lot of problems just holding objects in my arm. So for most people, just holding an object is pretty easy. So you can imagine how that affected me in so many different ways. So like running, so holding up your arms when you run, that was difficult for me. And, we worked together for about 12 months. We were able to, get me to a place where, I'm not just running, now I'm lifting weights and everything like that. So I would say another one too is like standing on my leg, right? So just a single leg, just stand, right? You can imagine how that would affect me in so many different aspects of life. We were able to basically work through that as well, so. Wow, that's a great question. So this started when I was like, I would say 20 years old. I'm kind of a nerd at heart, so for me, and I'm very stubborn, so I actually tried to solve it by myself. I went to school, and I was going to school for kinesiology, and I thought that I could solve it through all these different, like learning this and that. So I went through trying to solve it myself. I realized I couldn't do it myself. I reached out to so many different practitioners. I mean, if you look at my wardrobe, I probably have like 7 physical therapists, trainers, acupuncture. I mean, the list goes on. I've spent so much money and so much time. So it was about 7, I would say an accumulation of about 7 years trying to find somebody. So you can imagine the amount of money that I spent, but not only that, but the time. I've seen people at super high caliber levels. So I remember I was in the Bay Area and I saw this lady who just graduated from, or not just graduated, but she was from Harvard. She had her own practice. She was in sports medicine. And I think when I walked in, like her intro fee was like $500. When I left, she said, I have no idea what to even tell you about what's going on. So this was, frustration's like probably like the smallest thing that you could actually like quantify, what I went through. But when you see so many different people and every day all you can feel is the pain in your brain and you're just looking for answers and nobody can give you those answers. And then not only that, but then they start to question like, hey, maybe he's just making this up. That's when I think you become silent and you suffer in pain. And I think that was probably the last 3 or 4 years before I met Joe and, an array of different other people. But that was probably the hardest thing, is when you start to suffer in pain. And because people don't want to hear it, right? They don't want to hear, what the hell are you going through? And, all these, these practitioners they're at the highest caliber and they can't solve it. So, maybe it's just in your head. So I think the last person that I saw was in the Bay Area, and it was actually I don't want to name the clinic, but it was at a high level clinic, and they said, maybe there's something going on with your M1 processing. So basically the way you process what you're going to do. And so they referred me over to, a sports psychologist, and I mean, the rabbit hole went on. So I was just so grateful to meet Joe, because it was just, we cut through the smoke, right? So the frustration was we cut through the smoke, and we got right down to business. So what was different about working with Joe? This is a great question. So Joe he's on a whole nother level, right? He's been down this journey, right? He's been down this journey of pain and suffering. And he knows what it feels like to go through all these different practitioners and trying to find answers. And he shared that with me, during this process that we went through. So I saw 12 months, right, Joe? So 12 months. And when you're going at this alone, or by yourself, you feel alone. But when somebody's been through this process, it makes it so much easier, right? So like 2 to 3 weeks, and Joe's able to share with me, like, or 2 to 3 months in, he's like, oh yeah, I've been through that, right? So him having that personal connection in his story is able to relate to me, right? So I'm also, I mean, the guy delivers on a whole nother level, but just having that component of him being through the journey, you don't feel alone. All right, and that's so hard when you're going through pain and nobody has answers for you, because there's nobody to relate to. And so when you have nobody to relate to, you feel alone and you feel isolated. And I mean, if you're in that spot, then you probably know what I'm talking about. So there was like that half of it, and obviously he has like one of the best personalities I've ever met. So it wasn't like boring working with him, right? Every day he had, he had the story, or he was able to, sometimes I was, I wasn't having a good day, or I was looking back on the journey, and sometimes, when we were working together, like sometimes I wanted to quit because it was emotionally draining. It was physically draining. And I would just get in there and Joe would just crack a smile with me, right? Or he would say something that, he was able to relate with me. And I feel like he kind of felt it on an unconscious level because he was just able to kind of pick up on that. On the other side though, there's Joe, right? The guy is one of the smartest individuals I've ever met. I've never told him that, but the guy is a whiz. He knows his stuff, but not only does he know it, he'll tell you if he doesn't know it, and then he'll go get the information, right? So I think a lot of people in this world in 2022, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I know this, right? And then when it comes to delivering, they can't deliver, right? And so not only does Joe know what he's doing, but he'll tell you straight up like, hey, I don't know, but I'm gonna go figure out this information. And so it's like, it's just his character, right? I mean, the guy knows what he's doing, but if he doesn't know what he's doing, or if he doesn't know that like area, he'll go out and get that information, and we'll figure it out. I mean, 12 months I wasn't walking, and now I'm walking, right? I'm running, I'm doing sports, I'm doing this and that. So if you take what's different working with Joe, I mean, the guy can deliver on a whole nother level. He'll tell you, I think our first day, I said, can you help me? And he's like, yeah, I can help you, right? And it was just this confidence and this aura that he had about him. And so I trusted him, and it panned out. But not only that, it was him, Joe being Joe and sharing his journey along the way. If he didn't have that, I don't think I would have been able to push out of, where I was at to get to this level that I am right now, because I felt alone, and he made me not feel alone. And that was just on a whole nother level. Like, it was just something I could never ask for. So Joe is like, you take his intellectual plus his story, man, and the guy's a great dude, so. So I think the first month Joe noted, I mean, he picked up on things really quick, right? He was like, your ankle, your eye. And obviously I was a little hesitant, working with all these other individuals, but we started working on my eye, and he just he was after this thing, right? And so anything basically in this spatial region, if there was an object, I would dodge it, right? There was just so much trauma, I couldn't go through it. So if you put anything right in this area, for like more than 10 seconds, I'm gonna freak out or go into the fetal position. I think it was like 2 to 3 months in. I never told Joe this, but I think it was 2 to 3 months in or 4 months in, I started reading. It was like the weirdest thing ever. I had to listen to audiobooks because basically if I had anything in this area, it was very hard for me to track. And so we had worked on that eye for a while, and I just started picking up a book, and it was almost like, oh, okay, cool, this is just, a thing that I do. But I started to overcompensate, right? So I started reading all these books, and finally I was just like, hey Joe, I just started reading. He's like, what? So it was right, I knew that there was small progressions that we had, right? So I was able to have, visual, stimulus in this area. But when you're able to put a book, right? I've been through college, and I've had to do weird things to overcome how to read and all these other things. But I just told Joe, I remember one day, it wasn't it was just nonchalant, right? Because I kind of forgot about it, and I was like, hey Joe, I just picked up a book and I started reading. He just the guy just he was mind blowing, and I was like, oh yeah, huh? I wasn't able to do this before. So something small that's so normal for a human being, and that happened, right? And then I think further down the line, I think it was 6 months in or something like that, I was like, oh yeah, I just went for a 2-mile run. And he was like, wait, what? You went from barely being able to walk to now you're doing a 2-mile run. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so there's just these, right, the progression was so quick and so fast that I had never had it before. And when it happened, it was like I was going back to when I was 15 years old, right? And it was just whatever. And Joe's we were celebrating our wins and stuff like that. So, I worked with so many different people, but that was okay, this guy knows what he's doing, right? There was these milestones that we hit, and Joe was, I think, more ecstatic than me because I'm more of a nonchalant guy, but those were just two of the milestones that we hit, and they were huge. Now, what does my life look like? Life is like, I had this for, it was almost like 10 years, 10 years. I had to fix like this whole thing, right? And it's weird, we look at how do we solve this problem, then we just see this problem, right? It's just the body, right? But what's past that problem? And it's weird. I've always like I'm on the West Coast right now. We're in California, right? Something big for me is like I've always wanted to live somewhere else, maybe East Coast. And that's actually something that I came to a decision with just in the past couple weeks. But the reason why I was so strapped is because I was I couldn't fend for myself. I couldn't sit. I couldn't do all these basic, individual, just human being things, right? So it's I've always kind of wanted to have a partner, long-term in life. That's been something that I've always craved, but I was in so much pain that I would inflict that on other people, right? So there was no, I always knew deep down inside that there was no chance of where I was at. And so I was actually always kind of single for like, it's been about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, just because I don't want to hurt somebody else. So that's actually something I rarely share with people. But that was something I've always I've always wanted. We're human, right? So that and being able to go out and play sports again. Like I was an athlete my whole life, and then my body just collapsed at like 20 years old. So I'm playing basketball now, right? I'm 29 now, like playing basketball again. I'm a little rusty, but I'm out there playing and I'm able to jump. I'm out of shape, but like that can always, right? Like you could always get there, but I was never able to, get up and shoot the basketball, right? My shoulder was off, my leg was off. Another one is dancing I picked up. So I always wanted to go out and salsa dance. I'm a little rigid, right? But it's something I always wanted to do, but I could barely walk. I had actually tried it about 4 years ago. And like my footing was so off and my arm it was painful. So now I'm actually going out and I'm doing salsa dancing now. Karate's another one that I want to do. So that's actually my next step, or some sort of, mixed martial arts. So that's another one that I want to get to. But other than that, at this point, it's like, what can I do with like a normal body, right? And so I'm trying to also emotionally catch up to that. But at this point, it's like the sky's the limit. I was bound with all these different problems and pain and this and that. And now it's like you get through that and you're like, oh my gosh, I was only functioning at 5% capacity. What can I do with 100% capacity? Right, so now even just like shooting the ball around is like, okay, cool, this is a normal thing. Like, what's big and what's next, right? And so I think I'm also trying to catch up with that. But I would say definitely moving's been a big one for me. But being with a partner, like that's something huge for me. Being able to go out and play sports, like that was, for me, that's like my thing. Playing basketball, dancing. So I'm literally doing all those things right now. And me and Joe just started 12 months ago, right? So. This guy's amazing. If you ever get a chance to work with him and you're going through something similar, I would highly recommend actually reaching out to him because the dude has changed my life.